Get it while it's hot. Good morning. Welcome to Morning Coffee with me, Sandy. Yesterday we had a get together here. It was so joyless. I can't even tell you. There were only about 10 of us, but just the idea that we could get together and not worry about masks and germs, and we had a double vaccinated coming out party. The whole idea was to have a field day, and we had all these games planned. We have badminton outside, and um, we have cornhole and hole-in-one golf and croquet, and it was going to be this whole big day of field games and eating and drinking and partying. It's just too hot. It was just too hot. And here's the thing that's so cool about being hot is everybody appreciates air conditioning. They're so grateful for being cool and having ice. And I'd set up the motorhome. It's not a motorhome, the casita out and back. Turned on the air conditioner like an hour before the party started, so it would be nice and cool in there. Filled the fridge with sodas and beers and water so that it would be kind of a place to hang out when you got hot from playing games. Well, we never played the games, but I'm not going to lie, we did go out there and hang out, and it was awesome. Yeah, we didn't stay out there a lot. Mostly we came in and hang out in the house, and Indy entertained a little, and a little karaoke, a lot of laughing. It's my morning. You know what I mean? Good morning, Ginny. Ginny and I we both get up early, so we've kind of been chatting a little bit. Good morning. Thanks for joining me. So, yeah, it was party time, but I want you to notice something else. I think we have mosquitoes in the house because now I have bites on both sides of my face. I'm starting to feel like a kid with teenage acne. Good morning, my darling. Yeah, and Stephen, good morning to you too. I can't read anything this morning. Sipping and gulping. That's what I like, Stephen. Sipping and gulping. Anyway, we had a great time. We worked way too hard to get ready for the party. But you know how when you know people are coming over, you start fixing things and straightening things and cleaning things? We might have overdone it because by, I don't know, 7:00, if that late, we both were asleep on the couch. Yeah, him in his chair, me in the couch, watching a movie. Yeah, it was crazy. We were both exhausted. I think I'm going to go with we were exhausted from the heat. Yeah, that's it. And this week is going to be killer. It's supposed to be up not just triple digits, but like 120 this coming week. So this is the agreement all the tennis people made. We will play at 7:30 when it's still a little bit cooler. Like right now, I think it's like 85 or 90 out. We'll start when it's a little cooler. And if it gets really hot, we'll quit. That's all. But at least we'll give it a try. I can't imagine a whole week without exercise. So, Bailey, I bet you're saying to yourself, how did Bailey do with all that company at the house since he doesn't really do well around other people? Well, he tried to eat a couple of people at first. Isn't it funny how dogs seem to gravitate right to the person who doesn't like dogs? Well, we had that issue. But then somebody came in who really likes dogs. And of course, Bailey was just like all over her. He did eventually calm down. It's not that he didn't bark at all, but in all fairness, Gloria was barking too. So, they kind of set each other off. But then, well into the party, my friend Steven showed up and he brought Archie, who was another little dog, like one of those perfectly well-behaved dogs that like could be in a bag, doggy in a bag. He's fine and calm, and we put him down, and he and Bailey just went at each other until they both did like the doggy bow thing that Stephen was teaching me. And once a dog bows, it's a message to the other dog that says, hey, I just want to play. So they played like crazy. It was so joyful to see inside and out. It was much more joyful when I saw them outside doing it, running after each other, barking and jumping and playing and biting at each other, but all in fun. So that worked out quite nicely. Ginny fried an egg on the concrete yesterday. It's crazy. Oh, when it's 120 degrees, Stephen wants to know if our chickens lay hard-boiled eggs. Very funny. Indy rigged up the window from our bathroom to the chicken coop with a fan. So when it gets really hot, the fan goes in the window, that it gets turned on directly on the chickens, and they spend all their time right smack in front of that fan drinking water. And I guess the fan kind of sucks the cool air from the house out into them, because they seemed very content yesterday and it was quite hot. Thank you for asking about the chickens. They appreciate it. Can we talk about common courtesy? First of all, when you're invited to a party, do you take the time to RSVP when it says RSVP? Because I can tell you, as a person who's throwing a party, not knowing how many people to expect is pretty annoying. Not to mention, makes it difficult to figure out how much of everything to make and or buy, right? And then when people RSVP and don't call and don't show, doesn't that upset you? I mean, I think my mother taught me better than that. When I'm invited someplace, I RSVP. And if anything happens or goes wrong, I let them know. So, yeah, it's like, this was okay because this was an at-home casual party. But I can remember having big parties, like with a couple hundred people, catered events. And people wouldn't show after you spent, like $30, $40, $50 a person on food, and then they don't show and don't call you. It's like, off my list. Which brings us to, it's Weed Your Garden Day. Right. So I had this idea that I would take most, if not all, of the holidays that are listed for today and think of them metaphorically instead of actually what they say. So Weed Your Garden Day could in fact mean today is a day to go out, because wish you could look out my window with me. It's so beautiful today. But Weed Your Garden may also mean this garden. Perhaps it's time to, said another way, cull the herd, get rid of some people who are not bringing your life to its highest level. And by the same token, change some things you're doing that aren't working for you. Weed your garden. Get rid of the stuff that is not making a contribution to your life. Weed your garden. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Ginny. Thank you. She's being very specific. Weed your friends list. How many of those people are you really friends with? How many of those people do you really want to be friends with? Yeah. Weed your garden. Stephen doesn't want to do the work. He wants to borrow Ginny's gardeners. Come on, Stephen, get out there and start weeding. It's also Kitchen Klutzes of America Day. Yeah, this is the day you celebrate all those times when you dropped something, burned something, forgot to put an ingredient in, tripped over your own feet, threw the food down the trash accidentally. You know what I'm talking about. Kitchen screw-ups. Today is a day to forgive yourself, honor them, and move on. Yeah. Metaphorically speaking, what if this is the day you start forgiving all the stupid things you've done, all the little mistakes you've made, and you give yourself a fresh start there? I don't know. I'm kind of on this kick today. It's also sewing machine day. Okay, here we go. Metaphorically, Perhaps this is a day to instead of some fences, mend some pieces of your life. Instead of sewing a hem, pull things in a little bit. Instead of fixing a tear, clean up a relationship. Are you getting it? Yeah, I know. It's a lot to do. I'm giving you a lot to do. That's the cool thing. Okay, so two things that came up about my dad. The first one is it's National Softball Day. As soon as I hear the word softball, I can actually feel the texture of that ball. I think it's about this big, or at least it was this big when I was little. And it's not really soft, although it's softer than like a small hard ball that you play Major League Baseball with. This big. My dad used to play on a softball team from Omite, the company he worked with. And we used to get to go to most of his games and sit and scream and yell and watch my daddy hit the ball and run around the bases. And I can remember him. I know it might sound a little bizarre, but I remember him sweaty in his baseball clothes and that great big ball. And it just takes me back to my childhood. National Softball Day. The 16-inch softball was invented in Chicago? Okay, so that's so cool because that's where we lived, Stephen. That's where we lived. Yeah, Omite is in the suburbs. Yeah, it was great. Oh, I have such wonderful softball memories. It is also Right to Your Father Day, which apparently is always 1 week before Father's Day. Dead or alive, I challenge you to write a letter to your father today, especially if your father's no longer with us, especially if you don't really like your dad right now, especially if your dad was a pile of dog poop to you. Still your dad. Still because of him you got the gift of life, whomever he was, whatever he was. And I'm sure you have some thank yous for that. Even though he didn't somebody ever do something wonderful for you without the meaning to do something wonderful for you? And couldn't you still thank them for that? Start being grateful for what you have. And what you have is life right now. Without your dad, you wouldn't have had that. Just saying. So your challenge is to think metaphorically today, number one. And number two, write a letter to your dad. Living or not, write him a letter. Go from the heart. You got this. It's Sunday. It's a great day. It's a great day for feeling. Don't you think? I do. Let's see. What does that say? Oh, we're still kind of on a softball kick here on the side notes. And I think that's cool. So if you have memories about softball, that's what I'm going to write to my dad about. Remembering his softball games and what it felt like to hold that ball. And I can just so picture him. It's yummy. Okay. In 1922, this is so bizarre. I mean, I find the most bizarre information on the internet. In 1922 was recorded the longest recorded attack of hiccups. It began in 1922 and lasted for 68 years. 68 years of hiccups. And this guy, Charlie Osborne, he died like 11 months after his last hiccup. I guess that's what it takes. I don't know. Also, the birthday of Martha Washington. How can you not think of Martha Washington as the first? Because she was, right? She was our first lady. She was the first. Oh, and when I was looking up birthdays, because I like to look up birthdays and see if like there's any way I have a story to share with you or some kind of attachment to that person. And showed that it was Ashley Olsen's birthday. Okay, I wasn't a big fan, but wasn't Ashley Olsen a twin? Aren't there two Olsen sisters? But they only showed one? I thought that was kind of weird. I mean, don't you? Personally, if I was Ashley's sister, whatever her name is, I know one of you knows the name there. Come on, the Olsen twins, Ashley Ann. They were from something Life, some TV show. It was a comedy. They started as babies on the show, and they grew up on the show. Mary Kate, Ashley and Mary Kate Olsen. Yeah. Anyway, so happy birthday to both of them. I mean, they went into all kinds of other retail businesses besides acting, which was a good thing because apparently they weren't such hot actresses. They were just really cute. So happy birthday to the Olsen twins, even if only Ashley was mentioned. Also, happy birthday to Paul Lynde. Do you remember Paul Lynde? I mean, he's probably best known for Hollywood Squares, but he also he did that song Kids, dun 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 Kids. You remember them? He Uncle Arthur on Bye Bye Birdie. Yeah, you remember him? Oh, I loved him. In 1951, happy birthday to Richard Thomas. You know who Richard Thomas is? You would know him as soon as I say, "Good night, John boy." That's become like an iconic phrase. When you say goodnight to people, don't you sometimes say, "Good night, John boy"? Yeah, we did at our house. George was Martha's second husband. Why, that hussy. Wow. Yeah, and it was the Waltons, by the way. Good night, John boy. And then they'd all say goodnight to each other and the lights would go out. Okay. It is the anniversary of the death of my super musical hero, Benny Goodman, clarinetist. I know I've told you this story 100 times, so I'm not going to tell the whole story again, but I did get to spend an entire evening with the iconic Benny Goodman. Yes, I loved every second of it. My girlfriend and I threw a party for his band. The entire band showed up, including him, and somehow he and I ended up sitting at a table for over an hour chatting. When it was time for him to leave, I walked him outside to his limo, gave him a hug and a kiss goodbye, walked back into the house, and saw that he had left his clarinet sitting on the table. It was like this clarinet case was so old that the leather was like peeling off of it. And I've admitted this to you before. For just a moment, I thought to myself, oh my God, I'm going to make a fortune. I have Benny Goodman's clarinet. And then I realized, no, you can't do that, you crazy, crazy female, you. So I grabbed it, put it under my arm like it was a football, headed to the door, and went screaming down the cul-de-sac, screaming his name. The limo driver stopped. He rolled down his window, and I said, Benny, I loved spending the evening with you, but I can't accept your gift. It's just too much. And he looked at me like I was crazy because he was already really old by then. I mean, like really old and so sweet. Oh, I just loved that man. And he said, my present? And I held up his clarinet case and his eyes got all teary and he reached out like it was his child, which I'm sure it felt like. And he grabbed it to himself and he thanked me and drove off into the night. That's my... So many details to that story, but that's the most of it. Benny Goodman. Benny Goodman, I miss you, King of Swing. Also, Jerry Lee Lewis in 1989, which is just around the time that I met Benny Goodman. Maybe I met Benny Goodman. No, before that, because I think he died in 86. Anyway, yeah, I must have met him around 81 or so, 82. Anyway, in 1989, Jerry Lee Lewis, piano player, crazy singer, piano player, got his star on the Walk of Fame. He was like wild and crazy. He did the rock version of Othello. And some of you, I'm sorry if I'm repeating a story you've heard me tell before, but I saw him at the Music Center in Los Angeles doing the rock version of Othello, which was awesome. Also in the cast was Andy Gibb. And I attended the opening of this event with my friend Alan, who was the gossip columnist for the LA Times at the time. And we were invited, he was invited, and he dragged me along to the cast party afterwards. So I got to hang out with Andy Gibb and Jerry Lee Lewis. And that was where I got to meet Olivia Newton-John. And I know I've told you that story before. This is so difficult to have eyes that will not read without glasses. Yeah, goodness gracious, great balls of fire. That was Jerry Lee Lewis. Thank you, Ginny, for reminding me. Ginny said her mom hated when she played that record. I can understand that. He was like pretty crazy. And he married like a 13-year-old or something. He was shocking. Okay. Wait, let me see if that's an important comment before I move on. Yeah, Stephen says, if you weren't 14 years old or younger, Jerry Lee Lewis was not interested in you. That's true. It's true. He was a cradle robber, no question. All right, let's get on to the word art for this morning. I've posted this one before. It's a repeat, bearing repetition. It says, turn your contacts into connections. And if you read what I wrote on What Do I Say, What Do I Do, it explains the difference, as I see it, between contacts and connections. The best example I can give you is, when I talk to you, I always differentiate between a celebrity that I spotted and a celebrity that I had an interaction with. Spotting a celebrity is, it's interesting. That's all it is. Having a conversation with someone, not necessarily a celebrity, but a conversation now has the possibility of connection. The other example that I like to use is, if you look at your high school yearbook, you went to school with a lot of kids. Those are your contacts. You could, if you needed to, write to one of them and say, don't know if you remember me, but we went to high school together. On the other hand, there are kids you actually have memories with, like you actually have history with, and those are people who are your connections, who you can reach out to at any time. Good for them, good for you. Connections work both ways. It's that old thing of, it's not just who you know, it's also who knows you. So get out there and connect to people. That's what makes this world work. The more connections you have, real serious connections, the more joy there is available to you, because you get yours and you get theirs. How cool is that? Share the joy, my friends. Share the joy. It makes sense, doesn't it? Okay. Happy Funday Sunday. Sunday Funday. I'm going to go play some Sunday Funday tennis, and then I'm going to stay in the rest of the day in the air conditioning where it's nice and cool. I love you guys. See you on Monday. Have a great rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.